The next most kind of everyday situation was that the images started to sort of overwhelm the restraining systems, and the restraining systems got so complicated that even I started to forget what they were about. This is the project that was kind of the segue into becoming a painter. I created this whole narrative about this woman that works at Subway and then this two guys that are on the Subway. All that happens is, and the number 8 sandwich at Subway at the time was a turkey breast sandwich, so it seemed like I should have an attractive woman who happened to be my girlfriend at the time that played the role of bringing the number 8 sandwich on her bicycle, because there was no subway system, down the Infinite Burgundy line, and she just brings it to her friends who are watching TV, and when they eat the sandwich, it all happens between 7 and 8 o'clock, the narrative ends. So. And at this point, the narratives got quite complicated. That was when I started losing interest in the restraining systems themselves and just wanting to make the images. So basically, the ground for these was language or systems. The ground just started to become painting, you know? And that's when I started doing what I'm doing now, basically. People often call my work radically tasteless, you know, and brash and almost vulgar at times, you know. There's a harshness to it that to me is very American. But again, they're always very kind of everyday life, sort of scenes of very sort of almost surreal, banal, everyday life on the street or in the suburbs. And I like to try to depict this kind of sort of struggle against generally what I call abstraction in the world, you know, things becoming, you know, substanceless. The world becomes, you know, difficult and empty at times and lonely at times, you know, and, you know, things like, you know, like shopping used to be about, okay, I'm gonna go hang out at the mall with my friends and, you know, skateboard and buy weird shit, and now it's like sitting in front of a computer and going like this, you know. It's like the same with sex. It's like sex used to be like, okay, I've got to meet a girl to have sex. Now it's like, oh, just type, you know, log on, you know. Sex has no sex in it. You know, shopping is, there's no shopping. It's like everything has been taken out of everything else, and what we're left with is like the shell of experiences, I think, you know. And this is what social interactions can often be for me. They can become completely surreal, you know. I generally find that people are less and less comfortable with other physical bodies in the world as a symptom of the way that their lives are dictated by modern forms of technology and so forth and so on. And I think that is kind of my subject matter, you know, is that social phenomenon, which is very much like right now, you know, in the world, you know. And I realize people say my paintings and my musical interests, it's almost like I think my paintings depict this, you know, simultaneously humorous and fascinating, but also slightly sad status of the social world, and that the music I like is almost like a direct result of being in that world, you know. I mean, I've always been primarily a visual artist. It's not only how I make my living, I have for a long time, but that's what I wanted to do when I was a little kid. Music has always been more of a hobby, or a kind of like a secondary thing for me, but from about 83, 84 till about 89 is when a lot of the music, not the music I was listening to at the time, sort of started being made, you know. But yeah, most of it was European music I liked, apart from the American hardcore bands and punk bands, I was very young. I was a little kid listening to that stuff, and I think a lot of people grow out of that stuff, but it had a lot to do with what I was into. Then I got into the post-punk and the, gothic bands, and then the European cold wave bands, and then only about 8 or 10 years ago did I start discovering the minimal electronic bands, which I only knew a few of at the time, because it was even more obscure and more difficult to know about as an American. So yeah, I don't know. Another great early minimal electronic band. This is Twilight Ritual, which is one of the best and most important bands from Belgium. This is like a classic design. It's like just one image of a factory, I'm not exactly sure what kind of factory that is, but it's just this kind of image of an industrial kind of apocalyptic, melancholic wasteland sort of thing. This is a classic track. So it starts with already this feeling of like kind of isolation and this kind of like end of the world, like just train out in the industrial nowhere land in suburban Belgium, where they're from, and then it actually just hits into this pop song, not pop song, but this melody that just like sticks in your head, It's like right here. But again, it's just that raw, biting analog synthesizer. It's very pure, stripped down. It really has the energy of punk, but it's just more beautiful. It's more soft, And then it's just right here. It's just so simple. The delay, like you were saying, the delay effect and the kind of ethereal quality of the voice is something that goes through a lot of things. It has this kind of ghostly drifting around, through the monotonous industrial feel of the synth,